Sorry, it was on mute. Good evening, good evening. I know it's been a little while since I've been live. For those who don't know me, my name is Kayla Joshua, and I'm a financial service strategist. And what I do is teach people how to make 100K in 90 days using my Power program. And I wanted to go on live today and talk about something that's a little unique, but yet and again, it's not. Income tax time is coming up, and I know a lot of people know I'm a tax professional, and you hear every year, oh, um, people do X, Y, and Z with their tax money, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, it's not anyone's business, I should say, or anyone's concern about what people do with their funds. But I do want to say if you are going to do something with your funds, so say for instance, if you do decide to purchase a vehicle, I want to make sure that my friends and family, my community are doing their due diligence and doing the best thing that they can possibly do and know what to do prior to making that purchase because purchasing the vehicle isn't a small purchase. It's not a small purchase at all. And hopefully, you guys can hear me. I can't see who's on the live. If you can hear me, drop a one in the chat. That'd be greatly appreciated. But once again, it's not a small feat to make a vehicle purchase. It's a huge purchase. It's like one of the biggest purchases you can make besides getting a brand new car. So you want to make sure that whenever you are purchasing a vehicle, you are doing your due diligence so that way you're following the proper steps needed to make sure that you're doing everything you're supposed to do. So, my first question is when was the last time you felt fully confident during the car buying process? Like, what would it take to make this a stress free process for you and a smart financial decision? Recently, I'm being a little transparent. I've had a business partner. I had my stepdad. I had two brothers. I had a couple of people say, "Hey, I want to purchase a new vehicle," and they went to the dealership, and it's been an issue. Like, um, one person, I've never heard this a day in my life. One of the people, my brother, they asked for literally half of the amount down on the purchase price of the vehicle. I was like, what? Like I never heard that in my life. Half the amount down on the purchase price of the vehicle. So you're not put in these situations. Like I said, I wanted to go over a couple of things to make sure that we're all on the same page and we know what to do because a lot of times a lot of people don't have these, people to ask these questions to. So the first question would be, do you even really need a car? It's a lot of different, depending on where you live at in the United States, public transportation is very good where you won't even need to purchase a vehicle because like I said, a car purchase is a huge deal. So if you live in a place like New York, where you can ride the subway or the train, or even Atlanta, because you want to make sure, like, do I have to make this purchase? Is it a necessity or is this something that I just really want to do for myself? So you want to ask yourself that first and foremost. And then number two, um, you want to get pre-approved before you go to the car dealership. So you want to contact your financial institution. So whoever you bank with, so say you bank with Bank of America, you bank with Navy Federal, etc. You want to make sure you get pre-approved. And the reason I state that is because when you don't get pre-approved and you go to the car dealership to make a purchase, they run your credit like 20 times. No exaggeration. They run your credit like 20 times to make sure they find somebody to finance you. Even if you have terrible credit, they're going to find a way to get you financed, because they're not going to say, oh, your interest rate is 18, 20%. What that dealership is going to say to you is, oh, does a $400 car note sound good? You're like, yeah, that's something I can afford. Does a 350 car note sound good? Yeah, that's something. So they're not telling you that your interest rate is super high. So you want to make sure before you even go to the dealership, you get pre-approved first, so you'll know how much your car note is going to be approximately, how much you can afford to pay, so on and so forth. All right, so that's the second tip when it comes to purchasing a car. Now, if it's a private party sale, meaning like you're purchasing it from another buyer, who previously owned the vehicle, you want to make sure you do the Kelley Blue Book on the car, or, well, and should I say not or, and you also want to get the CarMax done on a car. So make sure if it's a private party sale, you're purchasing it from someone on the street, you want to get the KBB done and the Carfax. Another example, I had somebody go and they went to purchase a car from a vehicle. Everything was perfect. The mileage was perfect. The price was perfect. After they blue booked it, they went and test drove the car. Everything great. Went to actually do the sale, and when they looked at the Carfax, someone had rolled the odometer back. So people do a lot of sneaky things to get you in the vehicle. But if you don't do your due diligence, you would never know. So you're thinking you're purchasing a vehicle that has 60 or 70,000 miles on it. In reality, the vehicle has 250,000 miles. But if you don't know to look at the Kelley Blue Book, if you don't know to look at the Carfax to see how many previous owners, if you don't know to look at the title to see if it's a salvage title, has this car been in a wreck before and they rebuilt this title, you know better, you do better. So that's another thing to look for as well. You want to look at the title to make sure, hey, is this the person who actually owns the vehicle that's selling me this vehicle? Or is this a salvage title? Is this a rebuilt title? You want to look at those things first. I know a lot of times, people get their money, like I said, tax season, and they get super excited, like, yes, I can finally go purchase a vehicle because I haven't been able to have any additional income all month long. And they're just jumping into these vehicles, but they're not taking the time to do the research before they go to these vehicles. Get in these vehicles. Even if you go to a dealership and you make a purchase, make sure you look and see how much that car is supposed to sell it for before you purchase the vehicle at the dealership, because the dealership will add an extra $10,000-$15,000 to the price of a vehicle because they feel like you don't know any better. So you need to check what the MSRP is of that vehicle, what the real retail price of that vehicle is, before you say, okay, I agree to make a purchase of this vehicle. So that's another thing. Speaking of new versus used, a lot of people like to purchase new, which is nothing wrong, because you're the only owner, you know how the car run, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of people don't know that within the first 1 to 3 years, you lose half the value of that car when you purchase it new. As soon as you drive off the lot, if you purchase the car at $25,000, as soon as you drive off that lot, that car is worth $15,000, give or take, when you purchase a new vehicle. So you need to take those things into consideration, where if you purchase used, you can actually purchase a vehicle that may have some equity in it. A lot of people would like to upgrade their car every 2 years. You might purchase a vehicle that's worth $20,000, or they're selling it for 20, but it might be worth 30,000 because that person just chose to get a new upgraded vehicle and they kept that vehicle in tip-top shape. So I'm not going to say, thank you, Janika. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I believe it's all based on your own personal needs, your own personal wants, and what works best for you. One of the rules they tell you when you get ready to purchase a car is called the 24-10 rule. So basically, you don't want you want to put down at least 20% of what the car is worth. So if the car is worth, let me see, $20,000. Let me get my calculator here. Make sure my math is mathing. So the car's worth 20,000. You want to put down a minimum of 20%. So that's $4,000. No more, no less. Well, you can't put down more because it'll bring your car note down. But you want to put down at least 20%. And the 4 means you don't want to go over 48 months on the term of that car, because you have to remember interest is calculated daily. So the longer the interest rate is, the term is on a car, because they're giving people 60-month terms, 72-month terms, 84-month terms, crazy terms on car to get people a low car note, because all the person is hearing is the amount of money that their car note is going to be. They're not looking at the purchase order or the green slip to say, hey, I'm buying a car for $20,000, but when I finish paying for it, I paid $50,000 for the car. They're not looking at that because they're not looking at how much total the interest rate is or how long the term is. So those are some other things you want to take into consideration. Now, if you do purchase a used vehicle, you typically don't want to go over 5 years old. You don't want to go over 5 years old, typically, depending on the car and the mileage. If you're purchasing used, you can get a good deal as far as a little bit older cars, as long as it's not more than 12,000 miles on it each year. So say, for instance, if you buy a car that is 5 years old, it shouldn't have more than 60,000 miles on that vehicle. Okay? And that's just an example. You buy a car that's 5 years old, it shouldn't have more than 60,000 miles on that vehicle. So make sure you look at the mileage, because you don't want to go right into a car and you're already upside down. There's already no equity in the vehicle. If you can, also, if you're purchasing used, get a mechanical inspection. I know a lot of people don't have like a mechanic on standby, but if you can't afford to have a family member or friend who is a mechanic, that would be awesome to go with you to take a look over the vehicle and test drive the vehicle before making that purchase. So that's another tip as well that you may want to do if you're purchasing the vehicle used. Now, I think I spoke about it earlier. You can use tool calculators online because you want to budget how much you want to spend. Only you know what your budget looks like. So you know you don't want to go over a certain amount. So prior to going to the dealership or even purchasing it from a private party, you want to make sure you know exactly how much you can afford to spend on that vehicle. I already went over how much you lose as far as value goes. And you also, too, want to get the insurance if you can prior to getting the car. All you need is to know the make and the model and the year. Now, another quick story. A lot of people not only purchase a new car around tax time, but they also trade in a vehicle, okay? So what that means, example, you have a car and the car is worth $30,000, right? I'm going to say 30K. But you no longer want this vehicle, or the vehicle has clunked out on you. The dealership saying, okay, we'll take that vehicle from you, but we're only going to give you $20,000. So that means you $10,000 in a hole. What they'll do, they'll put you in another vehicle. But that $10,000, they're going to tack that on to the a new loan. So you find a new car and that new car is 25,000, they're going to add that extra $10,000 to that loan. So it goes back to reading your paperwork and making sure that this is something that you want to do. Because most times, like I said, the car loses its value, loses its equity, and it can be upside down. I personally, been there, done that. One of my vehicles I purchased when I was much younger, the interest rate was 18%. And I thought it was a good deal because all I heard was, oh, your car note is going to be $275. I'm thinking I can afford $275. But people are not thinking about the insurance they have to pay on top of that, etc. So make sure you're taking all of that into consideration. A lot of people like to keep up with the Joneses, so a lot of people just want to get the newest model to impress other people or feel like a car payment is just a part of life. It doesn't, you don't have to do that. Just to make sure whatever you do, you get something that is conducive to your lifestyle because they depreciate in value so bad. And there's a lot of hidden costs. Oh, one thing I forgot to speak on is the GAP insurance. What GAP stands for is Guaranteed Auto Protection. So just in case you can't afford to put a lot of money down on your car and you do purchase used, make sure you get GAP insurance. Because if that car was to ever be totaled or anything happens to that vehicle, you will be responsible for whatever that gap is that you owe on the car. So if the car is worth 10,000, or you owe $10,000 on the car, and the car's only worth to the insurance company 5,000, that leaves a gap of 5,000. So the insurance company is only going to pay off that 5,000. You're still going to be responsible for owing the other $5,000. And a lot of people say, well, why do I have to pay it? I no longer have the car. The car is totaled out because you didn't protect yourself and get that additional coverage and get that additional insurance. The only way you won't need GAP is if you put a huge down payment on your vehicle, so you actually owe less than what the car is worth. So if you, like I said, if you ever purchase used, make sure you always ask about GAP insurance. The price range is anywhere from $500 to $1,000, just depends on who you're purchasing it from. You can add it to your loan or you can pay out of pocket cash, either or. Just make sure you have that due to the depreciation on a car. So you also want to make sure you have that coverage. You want to make sure you look at fuel efficiency. Is the car 4-cylinder versus 6-cylinder? Things like that. I went over looking at the Kelley Blue Book. There are also other companies you can look at called Edmunds and Consumer Reports to compare pricing. Because like I said, even at the dealership, they can jack up the price on a new vehicle at one place compared to another place if you don't know any better. We went over getting the inspection. And so basically, yeah, you want to make sure you take the first step today to be more confident in making that purchase. Let me see. Percy said, is it important for a man to go with a woman to purchase a new or used car? Honestly, in my opinion, I hate to say it, especially with the political climate we're in right now. I think a man should, if you do have a man that can assist you and go with you. It shouldn't be that way, but it's the truth. Because a lot of times people try to play on women's intelligence or lack thereof of education, of knowing about vehicles and things like that. So if you do have a male that can go with you, that'd be great. Even if they don't know anything, just having a body there would be good. Like I said, I hate to say it, it happened to me before, but it is good. not to bring, like I said, politics into it. They don't even want a woman to be president, and that person could be a million% qualified. But unfortunately, we're still at a place in the United States in the era where they don't look at women as confident as they do men. They don't. So if you can have someone go, whether it's your spouse, a family member, or friend, by all means, definitely have someone go with you. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah, women aren't treated fairly when it comes to that market. Is there any other questions? I think I pretty much went over everything. Let me double check and make sure. Make sure you take it for a test drive. We went over that. Like I said, it's all a personal preference. I wouldn't suggest one over the other, used versus new. It just depends on your income and what you can personally afford before making that decision. But you can actually make money or get a car with equity in it if you purchase used and you know what you're doing. So keep that in mind. That car can actually be an asset instead of a liability. So that's something else you want to take into consideration. All right. So if you guys have any other questions or concerns, I know, so like I said, a little bit early. We're in November. Tax season is beginning of January, but trust me, it'll be here before you know it. So if you know anybody who's in the market to purchase a vehicle, you can send them a copy of this live, or if they need to increase their credit score before making that purchase, you can send them a copy of this live as well. Or if you're watching it later, you can type replay. And if you have any questions that I did not go over, I'll definitely be able to assist you with those. But it is definitely, like I said, the time and the climate right now for new vehicles. Oh, I'm glad I mentioned that. The best time to purchase a new vehicle is at the end of the year, October, November, December, because most dealerships, they're getting rid of their old inventory so that way they can get a new inventory. So if you want to sell or deal on a car, you should purchase it now. As soon as January comes, granted, that's when tax season starts, but that's when those prices are going to skyrocket and be even higher. So you want to take that into consideration as well. All right. Well, once again, my name is Kayla Joshua. I'm a financial service strategist. If you have any questions or you want to schedule a consultation, you can contact me at joinkayla.com and we can schedule an appointment. Or if you just have any questions about this live in particular, you'll be able to drop the questions right here in the chat, and I'll definitely contact you back at my earliest convenience. Is it true that tax season is not a good time to buy a car? Yes, it's not a good time. Everybody's Sorry about that. Somebody just called me. They increased the prices on cars during tax season. A lot of people go out and buy used cars just so they can fix them up and flip them and sell them because they know people getting their taxes, and people are so much in a rush to purchase a car that they're willing to purchase anything. So no, it's not a good time. That's why I'm giving you the tips and the tools now, so that way you can be prepared come January. All righty. You guys have a nice night, and thank you for spending time with me tonight.